I don't know what they're doing.
I don't either.
I gotta be honest with you.
What are you gonna do?
Phillies talk before our Eagles talk.
Yeah, not much has been happening. But what are you going to do? Birds time.
What are you going to do? It's Birds time. It is the Cat Country 96 Birds Recap. It is brought to you by Miller Lite, the official beer sponsor of the Philadelphia Eagles, and by our friends at Banko Beverage Company. Off of the injured list, Sam Malone.
Yeah.
How are you, buddy?
Doing a lot better. I still have a couple more sessions to by the way, I will never get on a player ever again for concussion issue and being out for 2 weeks because I get it. Reed Blankenship, totally understand.
I wasn't going to go into details on why you were on the injured list, but
that's all right.
There you go. But I mean, you're back. In season, you're back because that's the kind of guy you are.
I have one question for you.
Yes.
Is this gray because of the lighting in here?
Yes.
Thank you. I can't believe it. Anyway, what's up, buddy?
Yeah. Well, it might be gray after watching that Panthers game last week. So Eagles get set to take on the Steelers this week. Okay, let's start there. Last week was a blip on the radar. Teams are going to have their games, kind of a game to you, or especially with everything that happened after the game. I'll say this, your concern level for the Eagles going into this game this weekend is where?
Well, it's always at a high concern, but I mean, you said about a blip on the radar. Let's look at the past couple games coming off a huge game in Los Angeles, a night game, coming off a huge game against Baltimore. Not that you're due for a week like this, but I think they were due for a week like this, if that makes any sense. Like, you don't want that. That's not what they want either. But I'm going to because they won the game, I'm going to give them a little bit of the pass and say, look, you had some killer games the past 2 weeks. You're back home. You're against a team that's not that great, getting better, but that's not that great. I think every now and again, every NFL team runs into something like this, and we saw it last week. Concern level going into Pittsburgh, yeah, it's pretty high. Pittsburgh is a really good team. So is Philly, but Pittsburgh is really tough. Considering the fact they haven't won here since the 60s scares me a little bit. They're out to get something, but Eagles always play the Steelers tough in Philly.
Yeah.
Always, every year, or every time they play, I should say.
I think what's lost in that statistic, and yes, it is a bit of an anomaly there, but it's, it's not like they play each other every single year. They're in different conferences. Typically they're playing each other once every 4 years, but
back and forth.
Yep. Silver Fox. That's what I said. See, you got a Silver Fox comment there.
I'll take it.
It's going to show up. There.
Well,
look at this guy.
Yeah.
I have concerns in that if passing, as it was so eloquently put by AJ Brown, was the issue
passing, yes,
last week, there were some things, and Jordan Mailata came out and said that, Carolina threw some things at them that they weren't necessarily expecting. I understand that that's part of scheming a game plan. If you keep coming out and doing the same things over and over and over and over again, teams are going to find out how to beat you and doing that. Okay, that's fine. That said, if part of that equation was why Jalen Hurts was holding the ball, I can live with that a little bit. If it wasn't, if it's I'm not trying to turn the football over, I'm not trying to force the football, you cannot hold the football this week against the Steelers.
No.
Watt, Herbig, Hayward, Minkah Fitzpatrick in the back end, they're going to come after you and they're going to get you. You're not going to get those 4 or 5 seconds to throw the ball that maybe you had against Carolina.
Right.
And so that is where I feel like very early on, we're going to find out if we are in last week was an anomaly or if we are officially in spaghetti-o mode as Eagles fans.
Yeah. Okay, let's say the worst thing happens in that the fact that we don't come up with a win on Sunday. Notice I didn't say they lose. We don't come up with a win on Sunday. They won 9 in a row. You have to look at it and say they won 9 in a row. So if they lose Sunday, I'll be bummed about it. I'll be upset about it. But you got to look at it and say you won 9 games in a row. I know that's not going to get you to the playoffs. I understand that. And then you start something new again. You start a new winning streak. That's not going to be the end of their season because they're 9-1 in the last 10 games. That's the way I'm looking at it. I don't want a sloppy game. That's not going to help things. It's you got to be on the same page. You can't have a sloppy special teams game, and that's a concern of Jake Elliott too. Just sliding right into that, a little bit of a concern. But yeah, they do need to win this game. Win the NFC East. Let's go Saints at that too. We need the Saints to beat Washington. But if they fall short in a hard, real tough game, you got next week to win the East. And I've kind of given Detroit home field advantage. I'm not even watching that anymore. I think they have it throughout the playoffs. I really do. So just go out there, play your best football. Whatever happens, happens. Go win this. And it's not the end of the season if you happen to lose one of the games.
Well, I think the only benefit I'll kind of take a couple of your points there. The
Sure.
Detroit game against Buffalo is a big one.
Sure,
they still have San Francisco. I can't remember if they still have Minnesota one more time.
I think they do.
But Minnesota, obviously, with any loss that the Lions have, Minnesota now all of a sudden becomes relevant in trying to win that division as well.
True.
Which could put a whole big amount of chaos in what the NFC playoff picture looks like.
Sure.
I think my concern is that while they have looked good for stretches in this 9-game win streak, they haven't turned the football over. The one thing that it feels like a lot of people have kind of leaned into, and I don't blame them for feeling this way, is that when you get to those playoffs and you have to go to Detroit or Minnesota, or you have to beat one of those teams that Sam Darnold threw for 5 touchdowns last week. Jared Goff's gone 18 for 18 in a game because that running game is so good. Like at some point, you are going to need your passing game to be the reason you win the game. Right now, credit to Jalen Hurts. Turnovers were a big problem early in the year.
Right.
He has since righted that, done a very nice job protecting the football. That said, they are going to have a game where they are going to need to score points, and Jalen Hurts is going to have to be the reason why they do it. Your confidence on a scale of 1 to 10 that they can and he can at any point.
I think this is going to be the breakout game for Hurts because Pittsburgh has a really good run defense. They can stop the run. They play it well. They have a great pass rush as well. But I think this is a game where Jalen's going to prove a couple things. He's going to prove that he can do it. He has to do it. And he's going to hit A.J. Brown more often than I think he did in the past couple of weeks, just because of all that nonsense going on as well. And I think A.J. Brown needs to have a big game. And I think he's going to have a big game. And, as long as Jalen has that, we haven't seen much of the 1, 2, 3 release, 1, 2, 3, 4 release. He has to have that in mind, like you said, with their pass rush. I think this is going to be a make or break. I think this is going to be a really good game for Hurts. My confidence level is probably like, the 7.5, 8, but the one where he scares me the most is when he rolls to the right and he doesn't protect the football. He's done that a couple times, and that just alarms me. And that just take the sack, punt it away if you have to. Don't worry about, don't lose the football.
So I wish that I could say I was we're going to find out quickly if this is not being on the same page or if Jalen is in his own head with trying to deliver the football.
That's
we're going to find
sure.
that out quickly, I think, in this game this week. I think they're going to have opportunities. I went back and watched the game against Pittsburgh last time. AJ scored on a pretty much stalk and go. They fake a bubble screen. He goes up the sideline. I could see something. They're an aggressive defense. They're going to show up at the line of scrimmage, and they're going to tell you, we're going to give you the chance to throw the football, but you better get it out of your hand. And so I think we're going to learn pretty quickly where Jalen is in terms of reading a defense, progression. I'll give Jalen these things. One, he's been great against the blitz this season. Certainly the beginning part of the season didn't look so great against Carolina when they were getting pressure this past week. But also a big part of that equation is, as you're talking about him rolling out, receivers have to come back to him. It feels like a lot of times. There was a play last week where AJ ran his route, and I can understand his frustration right off the bat, is open on his little under route. Gets frustrated. Jalen rolls out. That's the play where he did the kind of jump and threw it out of bounds.
Right.
AJ stopped running. AJ stopped in the middle of the field and stopped running. And that's not saying that completely stopping running is something that they typically do, but when you try to turn up field and have your quarterback who's maybe getting chased have to try to set his feet and throw a football, come back to him, give him some easy outs to get out of those situations, to move the sticks, because the obvious thing is, listen, they're not going to be a pass dominant team. That's not going to happen.
No.
But if you can manage to pick up first downs, you don't go through these early 3 and outs. They have these stretches where, the whole first quarter, they're not scoring. They're doing all these things. You pick up first downs. Obviously that's giving you more chances to throw the football. They will never throw the football more than they plan to run it. That said, if you are taking advantage of the situations that you have in front of you, you don't need to throw the ball 35 times a game. You could be incredibly efficient throwing the football 25 times a game. So we'll see if they're able to kind of figure that out a little bit against Pittsburgh on Sunday. It is the Cat Country 96 Birds recap. It is brought to you by Miller Lite, the official beer sponsor of the Philadelphia Eagles, and by our friends at Banko Beverage. You can visit them at bankobeverage.com. Defensive side of the ball, I think one of the things that's going to work out, it looks like George Pickens isn't going to play for the Steelers on Sunday, which is a big, which he's doubtful. Mike Tomlin had said earlier in this week that he doubts he's going to play.
Mhm.
I'm wondering how much of that is also Pittsburgh maybe saying, okay, we would love to have you in a big game against Philadelphia, but we've got Baltimore next Saturday,
right.
and then Kansas City Christmas Day.
Yep.
Take the week. Take it. If we got to take an L against an NFC team,
but
is
there part? I mean, Pittsburgh didn't clinch anything yet. They're not in the playoffs as we
They have
speak.
not.
So, I mean, I see your point. Maybe you are saving it, but at this point, man, every win is important. Every game is like, not that every game isn't during the regular season as well. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
But like, this is, I look, I mean, he could seriously be, sometimes I'm like, I think he would be playing today if he could, or Sunday, but I don't know. I take your point as well. That's an interesting point. Right
I just think there's such a difference in that Pittsburgh off. He is a dynamic player.
Mm-hmm.
And they have nice Pat Freiermuth, like they've got some nice players on that offense, but he is a difference maker kind of player. So it'll be fascinating to see if he does end up playing on Sunday. But just in general, I think getting Reed Blankenship back will be great.
Huge.
It was, CJ goes out for a stretch. Avante's playing. Tristan McCollum is playing. You could tell, and credit to Vic Fangio and the other guys on that defense because they had every reason to, and credit to Xavier Legette for dropping the ball that ultimately would have been.
That helped.
They held on long enough. They got the job done. Your expectations for the defense against Russell Wilson and the Steelers offense on Sunday?
5-0 against the Eagles. Russell Wilson. All with Seattle when we had problems beating Seattle, when Seattle was very dominant. Russell Wilson's still a good quarterback. I thought Justin Fields was going to be the starter the entire year for Pittsburgh, but Russell Wilson came in and told me I was wrong on that. The Eagles defense is not still ranked number one, I think. I mean, they're going to have their issues with him. They will. He's a scrambling quarterback. He can get out of the pocket. He can move around. Not as great as he once was. I think it's going to be a challenge for the Eagles defense. I think they should be able to. Eagles are good right now on defense. They are, even with all those guys missing last week. They gave up 2 touchdowns. And am I right? 2 touchdowns on defense last week, I think is what it was. They're playing some good ball. I think they should be able to contain them. They should be able. I mean, they have an explosive offense. Pittsburgh does as well, but I think they're going to be challenged. I think it's going to be another big test for the Eagles defense, kind of like Baltimore a little bit, but they should be able to keep it under control against Russell Wilson. He's going to make plays. Of course he is.
I think this is a get them off the field game, because I feel like they can, Russ can be a patient, death by 1,000 cuts kind of quarterback. And in a game where, listen, early on, this game is in Philly.
Sure.
If they start with the ball early, they go 3 and out their first 2 drives. There is going to be a stink in that building at Lincoln Financial Field. So I think it's going to be super important that the defense plays a really big game on Sunday, just in case it is one of those games that they got to eke out in the same way against Carolina. Win on 3rd down, win on 4th down, and get off the field. Barry Dawson says the Wawa versus Sheets showdown. Barry, shout out to you.
Absolutely.
Speaking of the Vikings, a Vikings fan there, Barry.
Yeah, that's right.
Jerry says for sure. So
we
can't we can't ignore the kicking game in this right now, because Chris Boswell feels like as automatic as kickers get right now. And Jake Elliott and
I don't know what's up.
Michael Clay came out and said that it's not just all on Jake, that there are times when the whole process could be a little better. I'm curious if you have I don't know what the wind is going to be like on Sunday. You have a 48-yard field goal attempt to go up and take the lead, and you have a 4th and 3 on Sunday under the 2-minute warning at home in Philly. Are you kicking that field goal with Jake Elliott, or are you trying to pick up the first down?
Wow. this is to take. I still have faith in the guy. I
I do
really do.
too.
It's Jake Elliott. If you're asking me about a 59, 57, 55 yarder, no. But if it's inside 50, I still think Jake can get it done. I would definitely go for Jake in that situation. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's definitely a concern.
Yeah.
You hope not that you want to settle for field goals, but if there's one thing that
Well,
it would be nice if on a drive early in the game they are moving the football, some of that's through the air, and even if they
Yeah.
don't get in the end zone, you get Jake to just get one under his belt.
Yeah, that's what you need.
Whether that's an extra point, whether that's an actual field goal, points in the first quarter. I know they don't want to do it,
Yeah.
but points in the first quarter I think would really go a long way in this game. I wish I felt more. I think on paper, if you look at the teams on paper, the Eagles have the better team.
Well,
I think it's a really even matchup. That said,
mm-hmm.
And especially with George Pickens out, I think the Eagles are the better team.
Okay.
That said, I just don't have a ton of confidence going into Sunday. So I'll go to you first. Your prediction for Sunday, what you kind of expect.
Let me ask you, why is the confidence because the way they played against Carolina? Or
so there's been, if you've followed along with us here, this is our third season doing the Cat Country 96 Birds recap brought to you by Miller Lite.
Hi, Miller. Yeah.
I wonder if Nick is going to get away from what they do well.
Okay.
And I wonder if he's going to try to quiet the critics and throw too much early.
Yeah.
And it might not go well. This team is a running football team.
They are.
This is a running football team. And not only that, but Carolina. So I was up in the corner of the end zone for
you were at the game
against Carolina. Carolina would go either 5 linemen on the line of scrimmage. They'd bring safeties down, but they would still go 2 high safety. And the Eagles were still efficient at running the football.
Mm-hmm.
This team can run. You want to stick 7 in the box. You want to stick 8 in the box. They are able to run the football. I worry that with all the noise going on, that maybe they try to get a little out of their own way to throw the football early.
I hear you.
And if it's successful, great. That I'll wear that egg on my face. I don't think it will take much, or one incompletion or one bad throw or one overthrow or anything like that for the crowd to start letting it be heard.
Yep.
And I think that is where my concern is.
Okay. I that's a very, that makes sense. Very good. Yeah. I see your point. Very good point. Don't get away from running the football. Don't get away. You know what's nice about the way when they run the football, this running offense, when they give Barkley a break, Gainwell does an amazing job at backing up Saquon, finds the holes, makes the moves, does what he has to do. My fear is that they do come. I see what you're saying. I still have confidence in the team. I don't want the first down, incomplete, 2nd and 10. We run for 4 yards, 3rd and 3, 3rd and
100%.
6, and you throw the ball again, and there you go, 1, 2, 3 kick. Make some noise in the first quarter. Establish that run game in the first quarter. I know Pittsburgh's good against the run. I get it. So is everybody else for the most part. Well, you know what I'm saying. But keep it going, man. If you run a couple, in the first quarter, and then you have to throw a couple balls. That's great. You get another first down. Get Barkley. Did you notice last week, Barkley, the first couple series, Barkley for 7, Barkley for 6, Barkley for 7, Barkley for 6. Keep it going until they take it away from you. And then when they take it away from you, keep it going again. That's my, keep that run game going. We agree on that. But I do have confidence in the coach this weekend to get it done.
I think it's a big momentum game on Sunday. Sure. I think if they can come out and get the crowd involved early, man, I think they could really make a statement against Pittsburgh. The flip side of that is if they come out and it's flat and it doesn't look good, it can be a very tense day on Sunday.
Yep.
So while I do feel that way, I do feel like the Eagles have the better team. I do think with George Pickens not being in this game,
that's huge,
I like the Eagles to score more points than the Steelers on Sunday. What that looks like, I don't know for sure. 20-16, something to that, something in that range. I think Pittsburgh will have a tough time in the red zone. So I will say 20-16 Eagles, and at times it just might not look. It'll look a lot like Carolina.
I can see them putting up 30.
Okay,
Sunday.
I would love that.
Yeah, I do see a 30-point. I feel like an offensive explosion is we're waiting. We're waiting for it to happen. It's been a couple weeks since the offense explosion. Pittsburgh will keep it close. They have a really good tight end. Eagles still have issues with, with some really good tight ends, not as bad as it used to be. But Pittsburgh has a good tight end that's going to keep them in the game, and it's going to be like a 33-28 game, something like that, in favor of the Birds.
That would be fun. Actually.
That'd be great.
I'd like to see a nice high scoring game and
Absolutely.
a win. That would be great. Well, we'll see how it goes, buddy. Battle of
Go
Pennsylvania
Birds!
on Sunday. It is the Cat Country 96 Birds recap. It is brought to you by Miller Lite, the official beer sponsor of the Philadelphia Eagles, and by our friends at Banko Beverage Company. For Sam Malone, I am Kevin Crockett. Go Birds.
Go Birds.
Go Birds. Please go Birds.
Please.
I can't do last season all over again.
I agree.
Please go Birds. Bye, everybody.
Bye.